South Africans will know how the economy of South Africa is performing shortly, as StatsSA will be releasing the GDP, or those gross domestic product figures, a little bit later on today, around about 11 o'clock. Last year, the economy grew by 1.3%, exceeding National Treasury's expectation of 1%. However, not such good news for motorists, going to have to spend a lot more money as petrol is expected to increase by approximately 82%, or 82 cents, I should say, to around about 15.79 cents a litre. Diesel also going up 85 cents to 14 rand and 19 cents a litre. Well, joining us in studio now to talk a little bit about all of these issues affecting us is economist Maudi Letswane, who is the managing director of Lehumo Investments. Good to have you. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Bit of a tough time. Let's not kid. It's a tough time for South Africans at the moment. We know we've got figures coming in today, but I want to just pause a second, talk about this petrol price increase that should be going in at midnight today. It's tough. It's very, very hefty, isn't it?
No, I mean, it's very bad. And I mean, this is going at a time when, you know, the consumer in general is still very much under pressure. And we're having all these increases. We've had all those increases at the beginning of April, which were as a result of all the levies that were introduced after the Minister of Finance introduced those increases. The VAT also increased. So fast forward a couple of months later, we've got all those these increases in the petrol price. We've also had the rand weaken quite tremendously from the levels that we reached at the beginning of the year. So all these factors are certainly going to impact very negatively on the consumer, who's already under pressure.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, that's the realistic word to say, as the consumer is already under pressure. I mean, you talk about the fact that the currency was doing so well. I mean, let's look back at figures. When President Ramaphosa took over, the rand was sitting at around about 11.64 to the dollar. It's not looking that strong, is it, at the moment? I mean, there's very many factors affecting it. We can't just blame local factors. There's a lot of international factors, the dollar and everything. We track these global markets, but still, it's happening to us now. What do you attribute a lot of the negativity to?
Look, as you alluded to, these are a number of factors that unfortunately are just way beyond South Africa's control. If you take, for instance, the higher energy prices, I mean, we've had the oil price increase quite tremendously over the past couple of months. And this is obviously something that is way beyond South Africa's control. It's to do with everything that is happening around OPEC, and also all the sanctions that have taken place, the Middle East problems that we saw with Iran. Those are factors, unfortunately, that we take and we've got no control over, and they impact very negatively. I mean, the oil price now around about $80 a barrel. Then take that the fact that also the rand has weakened. So all those factors impacting quite negatively. South Africa, we've done fairly well. You know, we've managed to sort of get our economy sort of back in the hope mode, where we've had consumer or rather investor confidence on an uptick. We've got all these, you know, the climate is quite conducive, I think, to allow investment to come in. So we've done everything that we can. I think all those negative factors that are coming from abroad are just way beyond us.
Let's quickly look at some of the figures we're going to be seeing coming out today. Of course, we are seeing not such a great performance by the manufacturing sector. Decreased 1.6%. Mining production went down 3.4%. GDP figures coming out 11 o'clock this morning. What are your expectations? Yeah,
look, for the first quarter of 2018, we expect a slight negative number, just under zero. I think around about 0.1 on a quarter-on-quarter. That's where we as Lehumo expect. You know, number of other economists also expect that we are going to see some negatives in the first quarter. And I mean, when you look at a number of factors, the fact that we had a very strong fourth quarter of 2017, so we're coming off a very high base. So it's very, you know, coming into the beginning of the year is always very difficult. If you've had a very strong number in the fourth quarter, we had the Black Friday, we had, you know, a number of factors that would have led to the fourth quarter contribution. And when you come into the beginning of the year, things start on a slow. I don't think it says a lot. This number will say a lot about our performance for the year. We're still very optimistic as the we're still very optimistic as a country going forward into the rest of 2018.
Yeah. Just let's sort of give a bigger perspective of GDP and growth. You know, you speak to a lot of people that's saying if you want to see meaningful job creation and meaningful growth within an economy, we need to look towards at least 5%. We're nowhere near that. I mean, we've got predictions from the World Bank saying that our economy might grow by 1.9% in 2020. So we're pretty far off from any sort of reasonable growth. But is this what we are seeing happening around the continent? I mean, are we seeing other economies growing at a much faster rate here in Africa?
Look, I think South Africa is certainly underperforming most of its peers. You look at, for example, the likes of Turkey, you look at all the other emerging market countries. They're growing at percentages that are well above what South Africa is performing at. So we are certainly underperforming our peers. Even within the G20, for instance, we are well below what the average there is. It's in the region of 3 plus at this stage. We're still looking at just under 2%. So we are certainly underperforming, and I think it speaks volumes about the fact that we've not really focused a lot on the sectors that are important for our economy, such as manufacturing, such as mining.
Absolutely.
You know, we've got to go back into those sectors and rejuvenate them so that we can begin to see enough growth that will impact positively on employment as well.
Are we pressing the right buttons, though? We've come out of a very difficult time as a country, but are you seeing that the right things are being done, the right things are being said, and that we are trying to instill more into manufacturing and growth and production and mining? Is it something that we're seeing? Can we see our economy growing faster?
The new government started very well, and I think they're on a very positive start, and I think they will impact positively going forward. I think they've started very well, and there's a hope that they will begin to make the change that are required.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you. Thanks very, very much for joining us here on the program. So look out for those numbers coming today. GDP should be released by StatsSA. It'll be later on this morning and giving us a good education as to how we are doing as an economy. But as you've heard, a lot more needs to be done, and we certainly need to speed up that growth.